Children of Men is a 2006 film directed by Alfonso Cuarón. In the near future, the world population has become infertile. Humanity has not been able to procreate for 18 years. It is unexplainable, and it sends the planet into a downward spiral. People riot. Religious groups claim it is the end of the world and God's punishment. There is a creeping dread that this is the last generation. The United Kingdom is one of the few stable nations remaining, and because of this, immigration soars. Refugees of shattered nations have nowhere else to turn. The UK has become more nationalistic in response, mistreating its immigrants rather than allowing them to assimilate. Theo, our protagonist, is kidnapped by an activist terrorist organization called The Fishes that fights for the immigrants. Through his well-to-do cousin Nigel, he is able to procure safe passage for a refugee. Theo is just doing this for the money. This refugee, named Key, is revealed to be pregnant, the first known case in 18 years. The Fishes are desperate and plan to use Key's child as a political tool. Theo discovers this, he and Key escape and search for their contact in the Human Project, an organization that believes they can save the world. After a long and bloody journey, Key gives birth to her child, a girl, and she and Theo make it to the ocean to find the Human Project's ship, the Tomorrow. During a battle, Theo is wounded and he dies on the rowboat on the way to the Tomorrow. The film ends as Key is found by the Human Project, and the sound of children laughing in the credits suggests that the world is saved. Some say the ending is more ambiguous than that, but Cuarón said that he did not want to make a film that ends when the credits roll. He wanted to make a film that, when the credits roll, that was really the beginning of the film. This quote, combined with the children laughing, makes the optimistic ending quite clear.
Illegal immigrants, after escaping the worst atrocities and finally making it to England, our government hunts them down like cockroaches.
Children of Men reveals a form of prescience in itself, a prophecy of how the United Kingdom will view immigration, the panic that will ensue, and the rise in nationalism and xenophobia. The modern United Kingdom has a great many social grievances that have been long ignored by politicians. Lack of secure jobs, the housing crisis, underfunded public services. Yet all of these issues of late are seen, perhaps falsely, through the prism of immigration. The actual reasons for these problems include a failure to build council housing, the lack of industrial strategy to promote skilled jobs, and economic policies that have reduced standards of living and public services. However, immigration has become a convenient scapegoat for framing growing social and economic problems. This contributed to a loud isolationist statement in the United Kingdom voting to leave the European Union, a decision that has had great economic consequences rather than healing any wounds. We see this in Children of Men. Refugees flee their native countries in hopes of saving themselves and their families in this apocalyptic time. Public transportation has frequent Big Brother-styled messages from the government about the necessity of turning in your friends, loved ones, even family to the government if they are undocumented, if they are illegal. Signs flash that the British citizens should report anything suspicious. The borders have been largely closed. Theo's meeting with Nigel reveals that it is a near impossibility for someone to enter the country legally anymore. The Fishes must recruit the cousin of a very important figure to obtain documentation, and even then, Nigel is uncertain if he will be able to help. This suggests that nearly all immigration has become vulgar to the United Kingdom in the film, much in the way that all immigration has become anathema to nationalistic citizens in the real world. This is certainly not relegated to the British people alone, of course. Nationalism takes root in many nations. Borders are toughened up and walls are built. Nationalism does not simply aim to keep others out, it also aims to make life difficult for anyone who appears foreign, who is already inside. In Children of Men, when the police arrive, everyone scrambles for their passports before anything else, authentic or fabricated, because they know that their nationality is the only thing that can save them in an authoritarian nationalistic society. Political scientist Francis Fukuyama, in a speech about Children of Men, said, "That's obviously something that should be on people's minds after Brexit and after the rise of Donald Trump and a lot of anti-immigrant sentiment. He said this recently because Children of Men has had a kind of re-examination in the past couple years, a re-evaluation of its worth. Cuarón initially did not want to make the film. What changed his mind was 9/11. He believed on that day we began living in the future and feared the reactionary consequences that led to even greater conflicts and wars. Children of Men was made in 2006, making the war in Iraq relatively new. The United Kingdom was part of the coalition forces along with America and others. A close examination of this shot gives us anti-Iraq war images. This shot was made to resemble abuses at Abu Ghraib. There are various references to the Department of Homeland Security in the film. Nothing is accidental. This is all intentional. Cuarón recalls his cinematographer, Emmanuel Lubezki, once declaring, "We cannot allow one single frame of this film to go without a comment on the state of things." The director and the cinematographer make the curious but meaningful decision to occasionally break from following the movements of the protagonist to drift into shots of the refugees, the immigrants, locked in cages and carted off to a city that acts as a modern concentration camp. We see the propaganda from the government saying that Britain still prevails while other nations fall, but as we linger on the many long shots in the film, we begin to wonder if this level of survival is worth it. The film references art and music in ways that embolden the director's outlook. This scene conspicuously features a reference to Pink Floyd album Animals, which borrows imagery from George Orwell's Animal Farm, a novella denouncing authoritarian rule. The song Ruby Tuesday reoccurs in the film. As a comment on the importance of outside influence on one's culture, this Rolling Stones song, quintessentially British, is covered by an Italian. His thick accent allowing the audience to recognize the beauty of integrating cultures to create something beautiful. This painting is Guernica by Pablo Picasso. It was painted as an overtly political response to the bombing of Guernica, a village in northern Spain, by Nazi Germany and Fascist Italy, two highly nationalistic countries that tore Europe apart in World War II. Children of Men rarely gives us people with whom to connect to the government and its nationalistic political decisions. One named police officer here and nameless soldiers that exist more as background than as characters. In a sense, there is no principal antagonist of the film. The situation is the antagonist. The setting is the antagonist. The film shows us the past, the present, and a potential future. Children of Men does not struggle too hard with our incredulity. We can look around our own world now and see what is happening and not have to strain our imaginations too much to picture our world as the world of Children of Men. The name of the film and the novel from which it was adapted comes from the Book of Psalms. Before the mountains were born, or you gave birth to the earth and the world, even from everlasting to everlasting you are God. You turn man back into dust and say, "Return, O children of men." Religious imagery permeates throughout the film. The camera lingers on this mother and her son who has been killed. This is made to resemble La Pieta, a work of art depicting Jesus Christ in the arms of Mary. Earlier in the film, Nigel says he was unable to procure La Pieta. His mission is to preserve art as the world dies. Key tells Theo that she is a virgin before laughing and revealing she was only joking. Key reveals her pregnancy in a barn, surrounded by farm animals, much like in the Nativity. Upon seeing this, Theo swears, "Jesus Christ," in a moment that seals its meaning. It's not a one-to-one parallel, of course. Key does not actually give birth there, but the implication is clear. Michelangelo's David is also depicted, another biblical figure. Key's pose in this scene is that of The Birth of Venus by Sandro Botticelli, an image that gives Key even more mythical weight. We see men and women entrench themselves in faith as a means of understanding what has happened to the world. No explicit reason is ever given for the global infertility or why Key is able to overcome it. Cuarón has said of this, "There is a kind of cinema I detest, which is a cinema that is about exposition. It's become a medium for lazy readers. Cinema is a hostage of narrative, and I'm very good at narrative as a hostage of cinema. Children of Men is better off this way. If the film were a mystery about uncovering the reason and then a cure, it would drift away from its more spiritual essence. In one scene, Theo remarks that the world was ruined before the infertility even occurred. This is important. Jasper says Shanti, 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 a reference to The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot, which itself is loosely based on the mythological concept that the barrenness of the land is related to the behavior of its rulers. The land is barren because we have failed it. The world is barren, infertile, because we have failed it. We get the world we deserve. In the film, there are a variety of reactions to what appears to be the end of the world. Different characters with differing philosophical views. Nigel runs the Ark of Arts, a project to gather and protect the world's greatest works of art, preserving them as the planet crumbles. Theo tells Nigel that this is senseless because no future generations will be able to see this art. Everyone will be dead, and nobody new will be born. Nigel responds to this by explaining how he deals with this fact. He does not think about it. This might seem ridiculous, but that is actually how many people are able to cope with their lives and the inevitability of their death. Blaise Pascal once said, "I have discovered that all the unhappiness of men arises from one single fact, that they cannot stay quietly in their own chamber. I have found that there is one very real reason, namely, the natural poverty of our feeble and mortal condition, so miserable that nothing can comfort us when we think of it closely." In other words, thinking about our small place in the universe, our encroaching death, or a seemingly meaningless existence makes us unhappy, and some choose not to think about it. Ignorance is bliss. Nigel does not think about the end of the world in the same way that some people prefer not to think about their own mortality, to live in a kind of denial. He focuses all his attention towards his work instead. Theo tells Jasper that his unseen ex-girlfriend Lorna joined a religious movement and turned to God. Pascal would say that this is a wise move, famously wagering that believing in God has greater benefits than not believing in God. And what of Theo? His reaction to the state of the world is existential ennui. Theo sleepwalks through his life, devoid of hope. He lost a child in a flu epidemic, and now that children do not even exist anymore, his pain has become magnified on a global scale. Jasper says Theo's faith has lost out to chance. He was once a youthful activist. When he meets Key, his hope returns. Hope, more than anything else, is the core of Children of Men. There is a reason the ship is called the Tomorrow. Hope in the face of incredible odds may be naive, but it's still better than giving up. Hi everyone, if you like what I do, consider clicking on the orange Patreon link below. That's how this show happens. It's also a way for you to request an episode, so check it out.